My name is Savannah, and as of today, the county that I live in has been put under official stay-at-home or shelter-in-place order until April 16th because of COVID-19. Today is March 28th. Yes, it is. I had to double check on my phone. But I thought I would just document this because nothing like this has happened in recent history. The last time something like this happened, from what I understand, was the Spanish flu in 1918, and I don't think anyone alive today was there for that. And I don't really have anything else to do, so I figured it would be a safe bet to make videos about it. So I'm dividing this up into 3 parts. Part 1 is about me. Part 2 is kind of the order of which events and things about COVID-19 have happened, and then like the effect that it's had on me. So yeah, and I'm gonna be filming just kind of like every day to document anything that's changed, and then also just to show like what a day under shelter-in-place order looks like. So yeah, I am 21 years old, and I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. Grew up there, but I'm going to school in North Carolina, which is where I'm at right now. Because I live off campus, I have an apartment, so when they closed our school for the rest of the semester, they made everybody who lived on campus leave, but it didn't really make sense for me to leave while my lease is still going, so, you know, it'd be a waste of money, and all of my stuff is here, and I wasn't planning on going home till May, so it just works better this way. So I actually want to be an epidemiologist. More specifically, I want to be an epidemic intelligence service officer for the CDC, which is like the people who right now, like, they're the boots on the ground, epidemiologists, doctors trying to figure things out with this COVID-19 outbreak. And yeah, so that's weirdly coincidental because that's what I want to do. I first became interested in it when I saw Dr. Paul Farmer talk, and if you don't know about him, he's really, really cool. He talks a lot about global health inequality and has worked in various like international hospital infrastructure building during emergency outbreaks such as this. And then I got more interested in it, and I realized the exact job I want when I watched the movie Contagion and saw, I think it was Keira Knightley, so she was playing an epidemic intelligence service officer, and I was like, that is what I want to do. Hopefully I won't die, but hopefully, like, I doubt that will happen, but yeah. I remember very specifically when I first heard about COVID-19. Back then, I don't think that they'd named it COVID-19 yet, maybe I'm wrong, but it wasn't what the public generally knew. We were just calling it the coronavirus. But basically the message that had been across was, this is something that's happening all the way in China. We're not sure what's going to happen. Hopefully it'll be okay. It hasn't spread to many countries. And I believe this was in January, maybe February. And I remember hearing about it, and symptoms was really close to something that my mom had when I was a kid and almost died from. And so it freaked me out a bit, and my mom is a nurse. She's a nurse at the Children's Hospital that's right across the street from the CDC in Atlanta. So if anyone was likely to get around this virus a lot, it was going to be my mom. And so I kind of freaked out, and so I called her, and I was like, what's going on? Do anything about this? And she calmed me down and basically told me that it kind of reminds her of SARS, and so she remembers kind of the stuff that went down in the hospital because she was a nurse back then, and just kind of reassured me. And then I think it was a day later that we heard that it had shown up in Washington. I think it was someone who had recently traveled, and slowly over the next few days and weeks, I was getting my news primarily from NPR, their podcast Up First. But most of the news we were getting was it's slowly spreading on the West Coast, and then all of a sudden it started spreading faster, and then it was showing up in more states, and then someone on the East Coast, which is where I am, had it. And I remember thinking, this isn't going to be a big deal. Like, from what I've heard, young people aren't going to be super affected by it. It's really just older people and people with compromised immune systems. We didn't really fully understand that anyone really could get sick and it could be bad. The chance of it killing a younger person than an older person, yeah, but that also just has to do a lot, like, in general with your body. And so I remember that very specifically because it was very, very crazy to have suddenly been like, oh, wait a sec, this is a deal. Okay, because I remember one of my professors being like, make sure you're sanitizing your hands, you're not touching your face, and we were all like, it's fine, like, we're gonna be fine. And then all of a sudden it wasn't fine anymore. Next thing to kind of happen was with school. So 2 days before my spring break started, which was the second week of March, I think it was March 8th, I'll put the actual date like right here or something, the first case showed up in Wake County, North Carolina. I believe it was Wake County, it was around Raleigh, and I'm in North Carolina for school. And so I remember looking that up and being like, oh, this is really close, but I still feel fine about it. I'm not worried about getting sick. And it seemed very like, this isn't happening to me. This is not gonna, like, this is a whole nother thing. I don't know what's gonna, like, it's gonna be fine. Even though I've studied stuff involving public health, it felt very surreal because it felt like this thing that was happening so far away from everyone else. So it was either the day before or the last day before we started spring break. And I remember texting my mom and I was like, oh, it's in North Carolina. And I remember talking to other people about it, and they were like, I mean, all of my friends who are like nurses or whatever, like, they don't feel that worried about it, like, we're gonna be fine. And we were all so chill about it, no one was freaking out. And then I go on spring break. My mom and I actually went to Universal Studios in Orlando, and we are very lucky that no cases had been there yet. It showed up like a week after we were there, or something like that. And I remember in the airport, my mom, who was a nurse, she has to wear masks and gloves at work, and she knows the proper way to put them on, and not the same mask fits every person. If you have facial hair with a lot of those masks, it doesn't work. It's not effective. So we were walking around the airport, and there were some people with masks and gloves on, and my mom was so irritated. She was like, see, we're not going to be able to get any gloves or masks working at the hospital now, because a bunch of people are buying them, and they're not even wearing them correctly. I haven't seen a single person other than TSA agents wearing them correctly. And, yeah. And I'm really lucky I have a mom who's a nurse, because I know how to do stuff because she'll show me. But it's still, and that's the same way I think. I'm someone who really trusts medicine and doctors and scientists, just because I have grown up in that environment, because I'm from Atlanta. We did a lot of stuff with the CDC in school, and I actually went to high school right across the street from the CDC headquarters. Like, you could look out a window and see over the gate and see the building itself, because there is obviously a lot of security, but so I've always been kind of like, yeah, you're right, like, people need to calm down, they'll be okay. And then we come back on a Wednesday, and I was planning on going back to North Carolina to go to school on Saturday. And I remember I was with a friend who goes to another school, a school in Georgia, but she was my best friend in high school. And we're hanging out, and she got an email, and I was hearing more and more about schools switching to online. My aunt, who works at a college, told me that they had switched online or were in the process of doing it, and I hadn't gotten any email from my school yet. And my friend got an email saying they're going to have an extra 2 weeks off, and then they might be switching to online classes after that, but you're not allowed back on campus. And the next morning, I think around noon, looked at my phone, and it said we were having an extra week of spring break, and then when we came back, we were going to do a week of online school, and not to come back to campus until then. So obviously I have an apartment, I had like house plants and stuff like that, and I needed to get my mail, so I came back, and I also had to work. And it was very, very just kind of like, this is so weird. like, I don't think I fully processed just how strange this is, how surreal it was, because it felt far away. It didn't feel like it was like in my life really, because it still hadn't done too much to like, there was no drastic change. It just felt like we were having a longer spring break. And so that happened. And then I remember getting an email a few days after I'd come home saying that campus is going to remain closed for the rest of the semester, and we're going to be doing online classes. Only all of our coursework will be online. And I think that's when I kind of was like, whoa, okay, that's intense. This is happening. Wow. So I think what finally hit me the most about just the severity of all of this. So in Atlanta, they filmed in Georgia The Walking Dead, and there were scenes in Atlanta, and there is this shot going down a bridge that's on the highway that goes right into the city, and it is of Rick, the main character. He's riding a horse. The highway is completely empty, and then there's like a bunch of cars that have been abandoned on the other side. And growing up, because I think The Walking Dead came out when I was like 11 or 12, I was in middle school, and it was a running joke for kids my age, where we were like, oh, you know, the only way traffic stops is The Walking Dead. We know the world's ending when traffic stops, when it's that poster. And we would always joke about it, because even when there was a snowstorm, what we called the snow pop-ups in 2014, and our entire city shut down, 2 women gave birth on the highway. There were a lot of cars. Nothing stops people in Atlanta from driving, and nothing stops traffic. So to see that picture miles away, I was just, whoa. It hit me hard. I was like, oh my god, what do we do? Like, this is crazy. And of course there's that part of me that's like, I cannot believe I'm getting to live through something like this, because this is just going to be something that, you know, this hasn't happened like a century. We're going to be looking back on this and just thinking, wow. And there's that part of me, but then there's that part of me that's really freaked out. I think the second time it hit me the hardest was hearing about a younger person die from coronavirus, and then some studies coming out by the CDC saying that, yeah, young people can get really, really sick. And that scared me. So since then, I always took social distancing. I was following all of the guidelines very seriously, but now I'm just, you know, I'm a little freaked out, and I think that that's normal and that's okay. It's just important to keep a level head and be responsible. The grocery stores are so empty. A lot of things can get delivered now. Amazon is super backed up. It'll take a few days. What used to take 1 day shipping isn't available. You can order your groceries to get delivered to you by different food services. At first I was going into stores, but you know, so many people were trying to get a few things that were on the shelves, so it didn't really feel worth it. And that was also a thing that I think I didn't think about too hard at first, was that people were going to freak out and buy all of this stuff before we were even told to do something like that. Very weird. Since all of this started, I've just been doing schoolwork that takes up about a quarter of my day. Playing The Sims, cleaning, I've been making friendship bracelets. Yeah. Not a whole lot to do. It just feels surreal. Like, there's not another way to put all of this, you know? And my cat is getting in my lap right now. Or, no, she's using me to crawl over onto something else. This is how this is affecting me. And I spoke about the order of events that have happened, but there's also, you know, other stuff about how this is affecting. The main thing is that, like I said, my mother is a nurse, and my dad works at a grocery store. So they're the people who are on, like, the front lines. And they're older, and that obviously worries me quite a bit. A lot of my thoughts are going into that, but also trying to be like, there's nothing I can do to control the situation. So I just gotta trust my parents to take care of themselves. The other thing is, sorry, I'm like looking down at my phone, I have notes, is going out. I'm someone who, I do really well. This isn't a scratcher. Sorry, my cat wants to scratch. I'm not someone who thrives well indoors. I like sunshine, I like getting out, and of course when this started, it started getting warm and sunny out, which is my favorite weather. It's sunny out and it's warm, And yeah, I can go on a walk, but that's not really the same thing, especially now that we're in shelter-in-place orders. It doesn't feel really worth it in a way, I guess. And it's like, it's already hard enough to have all this happening, but to have to stay at home, it makes it feel very isolating and it's easy to get lost in your head, pretty much, and it's easy to feel even more nervous or anxious or disconnected because of how isolating everything is. And that's probably definitely one of the hardest parts. That's all I have to say for today. Tomorrow I am planning on just kind of filming what I do, and that's kind of gonna be what I do. But just documenting all the stuff that's happening, because nothing like this has happened recently, and hopefully nothing like this will happen anytime soon again. So yeah, thank you and bye.